Hi guys, welcome to another Yarn Scrap Friday with me, Laura, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this teeny tiny cute little pug puppy. So let's begin. So for this tutorial I'm using a sport baby weight yarn. So it's a yarn weight of 2, but you can use any yarn that you like for this project. And I've got 2 shades of brown, so I've got like a creamy colour and a darker brown. And also you're going to need a tiny bit of black for the eyes and a tiny bit of pink for the tongue as well. And with that I'm using a 3mm crochet hook, and you're also going to need a pair of scissors and a yarn tapestry needle as well. And you're also going to need a little bit of toy stuffing or some extra yarn scraps for stuffing. Okay, let's begin. Okay, so we're going to start off with the lighter brown colour, and we're going to do a slip knot to begin. And we're going to work 8 single crochet into a magic circle or chain 4 loop. So I'm going to work a chain 4 loop just to help beginners. So we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to slip stitch into our first chain, bring it through our first chain and straight through the loop on our hook. And into there, like I said, we're going to work 8 single crochets. This pattern's in US terminology. So in UK terminology, that's going to be 8 double crochet. So we're going to do a little chain 1 actually first. I'm going to get the tail end out of the way. Do a little chain 1 first just for leverage. So don't count that as a stitch. Then putting it into the center, be careful not to put it into your first chain. And just wrapping it around your chains, we're going to work a single crochet. We want 8 of those, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one more, 8. Now this pattern's a little bit fiddly, especially changing colours. So if you are a beginner, maybe try making it just in one colour to begin, and then when you're a bit more proficient, come back and try the colour changes. So hopefully you can bring in that centre a little bit. And we're just going to slip stitch into our first single crochet to join the round. So put your hook into the first single crochet and do a slip stitch. Okay, so we've got 8 single crochet. We're going to do a little chain 1 just for leverage. Don't count that as a stitch. And we're going to work 2 single crochet in each stitch around. So we're going to go back into that same stitch we just slip stitched into and do 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. And we want to do 2 single crochet in each stitch around. So we end up with a stitch count of 16, doubling up. So 2 in the next one, and 2 in the next one. Just coming up to the last stitch, 2 in the last stitch, and then we slip stitch to join in our first single crochet. Okay, so you should have 16 stitches by the end of that round. Okay, then what we're going to do round 3 is we're going to start working the ears. And we're going to start off with a chain 1, don't count that as a stitch. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the same stitch we just slip stitched into. But what we're going to do is we're going to join the brown, the darker brown, at the end of the single crochet. So we're going to go into that stitch, bring the yarn through, but instead of yarning over with the lighter brown, we're going to get our darker brown, and we're going to yarn over with the darker brown instead. Now we're working with the dark brown, but our first stitch is in the lighter brown. And then what we're going to do is we are going to chain 5. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. and yarn over, and in our third chain from our hook, so we don't count the loop on our hook. You can just about see it's a bit dark, but there's our first chain, second, third. Into there, we're going to do a double crochet. So in UK terms, that's a treble. So we go into that third chain, do a double crochet. So pull through 2, pull through 2. Then in the next chain, yarn over, we're going to do a half double crochet, or half treble in UK terms. Half double crochet. Then in the very last chain, we're going to do a single crochet, or double crochet in UK terms. Okay, then we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch, so as our first single crochet. So we're going to go back into there, that first single crochet, but instead of yarning over with the dark brown, we're going to drop the dark brown and bring up the lighter brown. Like I said, it gets a bit fiddly, and bring that through and then straight through the loop on your hook, and just pull those tail ends so things are a bit tighter. Okay, right, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 9 stitches. So go into the next fresh stitch and do a single crochet in the next 9. So that's 1, next stitch, 2, next stitch, 3, next stitch, 4, next stitch, 5, next stitch, 6, next stitch, 7, next stitch, 8, and next stitch, 9. But in number 9, what we're going to do is we're going to rejoin the dark browns. So go into the stitch and bring the yarn through, but instead of yarning over with the light brown, we're going to pick up our dark brown, which you may have cut, fastened off or not. We're just going to bring it up and yarn over with the dark brown in the end of that stitch. Just pull our yarn a little bit. And then we're going to work our next ear. So we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over, and again in our third chain, 1, 2, 3, we do a double crochet, or treble in UK terms. Then in the next chain, we do a half double crochet, or half treble in UK terms. And then in the last stitch, a single crochet. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch in the same stitch as our last single crochet, this green one, go back into there, but instead of bringing the dark brown through, we're going to pick up our light brown, bring that through the stitch and straight through the loop on your hook to do a slip stitch, and then just pull your tail ends a bit. Okay, and then we're going to finish up with 1 single crochet in the last 6. So you should have 6 left. Let's go into the next fresh stitch, do a single crochet in the last 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet, which should be a cream colour. Slip stitch into there to join the round. So you should have a stitch count of 16, not including the ears. So ignoring the ears, you should have a stitch count of 16 still. And then we're going to move on to the next round, and we're going to start off with a little chain 1. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first 5 stitches. But what we're going to do is we're going to skip the ears. So the first 5, we go back into the same stitch we just slip stitched into. That's our first one. Then we need to skip the whole ear, and it's quite easy because we're just going to look for that cream one to the left, and we're going to put our hook into there, but you want to bend that ear in front of your hook, otherwise it's going to end up on the wrong side. Put your hook into that stitch, bring the yarn through and just give it a little pull to bring in the gap, yarn over and do a single crochet. Now your ear is on the outside. So that's our second one. Next stitch, 3. So we're doing 1 single crochet in the first 5. So 3, next stitch, 4, and next stitch, 5. But what we're going to do here is we're actually going to cut, I mean you could carry the brown yarn, but I'm going to cut the brown yarn because it gets a little bit too fiddly. And what we should have done actually is in the last, sorry, the very last 5th single crochet, see it's me refreshing my memory, we bring the yarn through, but instead of yarning over with the cream, we want to yarn over with the dark brown. So we're going to create his little nose. So bring the yarn through that last single crochet. Now we're working with the brown, so just had to check that. And then in the next stitch, we're going to carry the cream yarn. So just put that over your hook. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in the dark brown. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch in the dark brown. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. So chain 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to slip stitch in the same stitch as this dark brown single crochet. Slip stitch into there. Then we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, single crochet in the next stitch. And again, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to slip stitch in the same stitch again here, but instead of yarning over with the dark brown, we want to yarn over with the lighter brown. So just bring the lighter brown through and then straight through the loop on your hook and just pull those tail ends. And we're working with the cream again. And we're going to finish up with 1 single crochet in the last 8, but we're going to work up to this ear first. So we don't need to carry the brown. I'm going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch and moving these tail ends out the way. And then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Then 1 single crochet in the next stitch, just to the right of that ear. And then we want to look for the next cream stitch on the left-hand side. Bend your ear forward, put your hook into there, give your yarn a little pull and do a single crochet. So that's 4 and keep going. 1 single crochet in the next stitch. 5, next stitch. 6, next stitch. 7, next stitch, 8, and next stitch, 9. Oh yes, it's 1 single crochet in the last 9. Sorry, my maths is not good. And then we come up to this first single crochet just to the right of this first ear, and we're going to slip stitch into there. So you should still have a stitch count of 16, not including the chains for the nose. Okay, then we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So keeping a stitch count of 16, we're going to skip the nose though. So do a chain 1, don't count that as a stitch. Go into that same stitch you just slip stitch into, do a single crochet, and we'll do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, but we're going to skip the nose. So 1, 2, 3, the first 3, 4, 5, and don't forget there's actually a brown one here, so 6. You want to do 1 single crochet in the first 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so you want to, there's a brown one this time. Then you want to find the next brown one, which is in between the nose. Okay, so bring this up to the camera. You can see it a little dark, but in the middle is a single crochet. Just look for this little V here. So I want to skip all these chains, and there's a slip stitch in there as well. We skip that. Find this V, and just to the right of that is your next single crochet. So we're going to bring the yarn through, but before we finish, we need to just pop those chains to the front, give your project a pull, and do a single crochet. Okay, and then your next stitch is going to be cream colored. So again, put our hook into just to the left, get my left and right confused, of the chains, bring the yarn through, and again, pop those chains forward, pull to tighten, and then finish your single crochet, okay? And you've skipped those chains. And then a 1 single crochet to the end. And you just want to check that your stitch count is 16 at the end. So if you've got 17 or 15, then you may have gone a little bit wrong around the nose. So you work into 2 dark brown ones around the nose. 2 dark brown stitches. And then just 1 single crochet to the end. Okay. We get to the end. Like always, be careful not to work into that fake stitch, as I call it. It's your previous slip stitch. Slip stitch into that first single crochet to join the round. So hopefully it looks like this. And we're going to move on to the next round now. So we're going to be continuing in just the cream for a while, so we can cut the dark brown so we don't get tangled, and just move that out the way, and it's going to come back at the very end for the tail. And we're going to continue with the cream. I'm going to just pop all your tail ends on the inside so they're out the way. All adds as stuffing. And we're going to do a chain 1. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first 5 stitches. So go back into the same stitch, just slip stitched into, do a single crochet, and we'll do 1 single crochet in the first 5. So 1, next stitch 2, next stitch 3, next stitch 4, next stitch 5. Okay, then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to slip stitch in the same stitch as our previous single crochet. So it's the same as the nose, but in cream, and this is creating our little paws. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4. So next stitch 1, next stitch 2, next stitch 3, next stitch 4. Do the same thing again. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch in the same stitch as your previous single crochet. Slip stitch into there. Then we're just going to do 1 single crochet in the last 7. So you should have 7 stitches left. 1 single crochet to the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, then we slip stitch in our first single crochet to join the round. Okay, so we're starting to build some tiny little paws. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 2 rounds, rounds 7 and 8, but we need to skip the little paws. So for the first round, we chain 1, do 1 single crochet in the first 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the beginning of the chains, 5. Then the next stitch is we want to skip the chains and the slip stitch, which can look like a proper stitch. So it just makes sure to skip the chains and the slip stitch. Look for that fresh single crochet. Put your hook into there. bring the yarn through and just make sure to pop those chains forward. You may have to tighten your project just to bring those chains to the front. And yarn over, do a single crochet, tiny little paw, and we do one single crochet up to the next chain. So we've done the single crochet there, single crochet in the next stitch, 2, 3, next stitch 4, so you have 4 in the middle. Okay, and then again we want to skip the chains, 1, 2, 3 in that tiny slip stitch, find the first single crochet, hook into there, bring the yarn through, and again make sure those chains are at the front. Give your project a pull, which helps the little chains to stick out, and do a single crochet. Then we single crochet to the end. Okay, and then we're going to do just one more round of one single crochet in each stitch around. So you should still have a stitch count of 16. Hopefully that hasn't changed. So we join the round, slip stitch to join the round, chain 1, don't count that as a stitch. Starting in the same stitch, just slip stitched into. We're going to do one single crochet in each stitch around, so just a nice normal round, keeping a stitch count of 16. Okay, you should just have normal stitches to work into now. Okay, just for one round. Okay, just coming up to the end of that round, slip stitch to join. So you should have a stitch count of 16, and hopefully it looks like that. So if the paws are a little bit small, you can chain 4 instead of 3 if they're a little bit too small, but hopefully he looks like this. And then what we're going to do is start creating the feet. So we're going to chain 1, do one single crochet in the first 4, so go back into that same stitch you just slip stitched into, do one single crochet in the first 4, 2, 3 and 4. Then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into the same stitch as your previous single crochet. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do one single crochet in the next 8 stitches. So go into the next stitch, do a single crochet, so in the next 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So one single crochet in the next 8, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch in the same stitch as your previous single crochet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do one single crochet in the last 4, but on the very last 4th stitch we're going to join the dark browns. So do one single crochet in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, and then the very last stitch, bring the light brown through, but instead of yarning over with the cream colour, light brown, we're going to yarn over with the dark brown, just to create a tiny tail. Bring that through to finish that stitch. Just pull your tail end. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Just pull these tail ends to secure that down. And we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch as a previous stitch. And then we're just going to join the round. So we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet, but instead of yarning over with the dark brown, we're going to yarn over with the light brown. Okay, again, just pull those tail ends nice and tight. And we've got a tiny tail. So we're going to put our work down. I'm actually going to cut the dark brown. Move that out of the way. Okay, and just tuck those dark brown tail ends on the inside. Okay, now what we're going to do is just going to do one single crochet in each stitch around, but we're going to be skipping all these chains. So we're going to start off with chain one, come on, chain one, and going back into the same stitch we just slip stitched into, do a single crochet. We're going to do one single crochet in the first 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just like for the little arms, paws, we're going to skip the chains, skip the tiny slip stitch and find that first single crochet there, hook into there, bring the yarn through, then make sure to pop those chains to the front. And as you do that, give it a tug and do a single crochet. Then one single crochet in, we've got 8 in between, so we've just done 1. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2, 3, so we've got 8 in the middle, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, up to our next chains. Then again, skip the chains and the tiny slip stitch, find the first proper single crochet, which hook into there, bring the yarn through, then again, making sure to pop those chains to the front. And I think that bit of yarn's just stopping it. There we go, and give it a tug and complete a single crochet. And then we do 1 single crochet. There's 4 after that, so that was our first one. It's got a bit messy there, but we'll continue on. 2, 3, and 4, which is our last stitch. So there's no more stitches after this. So we need to find our first single crochet to hook into there, bring the yarn through, but we want to pop those chains, brown, dark brown chains, give it a nice tight pull and do a slip stitch. So not a single crochet, slip stitch. And then he's got his little tail. Okay, so now we can close him up and we're just going to single crochet 2 together until the end. So again, do a little chain 1. And I'm going to do the invisible decrease. So I'm just going to go into the first front loop only, then into the next front loop, bring the yarn through both front loops and do a single crochet. And that creates a decrease that's a bit smoother than the traditional decrease. So next front loop, yarn through, do a single crochet. I'm going to do that all the way around until our stitch count goes back down to 8. Just single crochet 2 together to the end. Okay. Okay, the last 2 front loops, single crochet those 2 together, and then find that first decrease and slip stitch into there to join the round. So I'm just going to bring up a loop, and what we want to do now is stuff our little pug. It needs a bit of stuffing, so we can actually cut our yarn as well, leave a little bit of tail for sewing, just pull that loop through, and taking some either toy stuffing or yarn scraps. I'm just going to use more yarn scraps. Yarn scrap Friday. I'm going to stuff the pug. Now, if you're using yarn scraps, make sure to choose colours that are similar to your project so they don't show through. So don't stuff with black yarn on a white project and don't stuff with white yarn on a black project. It will show up too much. So I shall do that and then I shall come back. Okay, so when you've finished stuffing, we're just going to take our tail end and sew the remaining hole closed. Drawstring sew closed. So to do that, we're going to go into the next stitch, out through the next stitch. Give it a pull and keep doing that all the way around. Next stitch, next stitch. Give it a little pull until the hole is closed. Okay, then we want to just hide our tail end. So I'm just going to sew to the top. Okay, and you could use that as a little keychain loop if you wanted to. I'm just going to cut mine down like so. Okay, so all that's missing now is some eyes and a tiny tongue. Now the eyes and the tongue are exactly the same. So we're going to take 2 short lengths of the black yarn, like this, and 1 short length of the pink yarn. What we're going to do is we're going to tie 2 knots into the center of each strand. So it's 1 knot on top of each other. 2 knots, and do that the same for these 2 as well. And then we're just going to sew them onto our little pug. So where should we put the eyes? Maybe here, maybe. Sew each end so the knots catch on the outside. Get the other end and just sew through. Oops, oh no, don't do that. Okay, stay on the outside. And then we're going to hide our tail ends. What I might do, if that actually happens, I think what's a good idea is if you take one end, so we sew one end in, then the other end, this didn't happen on my first pug, we're just going to catch a little bit of yarn when we sew through, then it really will catch on the outside. So we don't want to do 3 knots because the eyes will be too big. So there we go. Now it won't go inside. And then hide your tail ends and repeat for the second eye and the tongue. So I'll do the second eye and I'll come back and just show you the tongue, how I did it. Hide these tail ends. So I'm just sewing through so it catches on the stuffing on the inside. And then you just push your project down, cut as close as you can, and the tail end disappears on the inside. Okay. Okay, there's the other eye sewn on, and it's exactly the same thing for the tongue. I've got 2 knots in the middle of the pink yarn. And I'm just going to sew through the middle of his nose, just underneath, so the knots just catch on the outside. And then the second tail end, I'm just going to sew slightly below. Bring that through. That should pull the tongue down just a little bit. There we go. And then just hide your tail ends. Okay, so I shall hide my tail ends and then he's done. And there we go, he is finished. And if there's a little bit of a gap here, this one actually worked quite well, but if there's a little bit of a gap here and you don't like it, just take some dark brown yarn and you can just come in through the back and come out one side and then just go over the other side. Just add a little bit of brown yarn, dark brown yarn, just to close close up his nose. And maybe a lower one, like so, if you want to. There we go, like that. And then just hide your tail ends. So we're gonna cut those down. Disappear on the inside. And there's our finished little pug to go with our other tiny little pug, his little tail. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you managed to follow along. And like always, the free written pattern will be on my website very soon, so go and check that out. And also in the written pattern will be some added extras, which will be the cute little dog basket and the tiny little food bowl and bone as well. So some little extras in the written pattern. But I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping Yarn Scrap Friday be relaunched. A huge thank you to you guys. And hopefully, if you're not subscribed to the Patreon channel, go check it out for lots of extra bonus content. But I'll see you soon for some more crochet crafting fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.